Have you ever noticed how every generation gets a headline except Gen X? Boomers get the spotlight, millennials get the blame, Gen Z gets the trends, and Gen X? They're the ones in the background, holding everything together, quietly. So why does Gen X feel like the most ignored generation in history? Here's the psychology behind it. 1. They're the middle child of society. Gen X sits between two loud bookends, boomers and millennials. And psychologically, attention follows contrast. This is the availability heuristic. Our brains remember what's talked about the most, not what's quietly happening in the middle. Boomers were the big shift. Millennials were the big disruption. Gen X became the in-between chapter, not dramatic enough to be mythologized, not new enough to be obsessed over. So they get skipped, even when they shaped everything around them. 2. They were trained to be self-reliant, early. A lot of Gen X grew up as latchkey kids. More dual-income homes, more divorce, more figure it out. So they learned independence as survival, not as a personality trait. That creates a strong internal locus of control. If something goes wrong, it's on me. But here's the trade-off. People who don't ask for help don't get noticed. They handle it, they adapt, they move on. And because they don't make noise about their struggle, society assumes they don't have one. 3. They developed a protective layer of cynicism. Gen X watched institutions wobble, layoffs, recessions, corporate loyalty collapsing, big promises not matching reality. So many of them learned a quiet psychological strategy, defensive pessimism. Expect less, trust less, stay prepared. It doesn't mean they're negative. It means they're trying not to be disappointed again. But cynicism has a social cost. Optimism gets celebrated. Cynicism gets ignored. Because it doesn't make a catchy story, it makes a true one. 4. They became emotionally private on purpose. Gen X wasn't raised in an era of emotional oversharing. Feelings were often handled with, be tough, don't complain, or you'll be fine. Over time, that shapes emotional regulation into emotional minimization. They feel things deeply, but they don't advertise it. They can be the friend who shows up, fixes the problem, and disappears. The parent who sacrifices quietly. The coworker who carries the team without asking for praise. And the world tends to overlook the people who don't demand credit. 5. They're the bridge generation, and bridges don't get thanked. Gen X had an analog childhood and a digital adulthood. They learned life without internet, then had to learn it with internet. That builds cognitive flexibility, an ability to switch modes, adapt fast, and stay functional in change. But here's the irony. When you adapt too well, people assume it was easy for you. And now many Gen X are living the sandwich pressure, raising kids, supporting parents, managing careers, while still being expected to stay low maintenance. They're not ignored because they're unimportant. They're ignored because they're dependable. The takeaway, Gen X isn't invisible. They're just not loud. They're the generation that learned to survive without applause. But being strong in silence doesn't mean you should be unseen. If this video made you think differently about Gen X, hit like, subscribe to Human Codex, and check out our other videos on human behavior and the hidden rules people live by. Catch you in the next one.